Hi everyone, Edna Kimble, Edna sells Century 21 Wright Real Estate, and welcome to today's podcast. Now today we are talking about investing, and today we have a special treat for you. One of my favorite young investors, really young investors, is here to join us. This is Addison Allison.
Hello.
Addison, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself, starting with your age.
Okay.
She's still young enough I can ask that. So, yeah.
I'm 23. I've been a realtor for almost 2 years, and we just closed on our third investment property.
Very good. But how many properties have you purchased?
4, the house we live in also.
Okay, so a year and 6 months in the biz?
No, almost this end of this month will be 2 years. So.
Okay, so 23 months in the business, and you've done 4 transactions for yourself.
3. The first one we bought right before I became a realtor. Right before I got my license.
Okay. Well, I'll allow that. Okay. Okay. So tell us, first off, how did you get into real estate?
So, my first kind of foot in the door, my grandfather passed away, so I was in charge of taking care of all of his things, and so selling his property was the first thing. Listed it with another realtor at another company here in town. Nothing happened on it, so I came to Edna. She sold it. And then Elisha and I kind of knew that we wanted to have investment properties eventually, and so I thought, well, I'll just get my real estate license. Like, surely that would help in that aspect. And then it was during 2020, COVID hit, and we weren't really worried. It was just crazy, and I was like, well, how about I just go all in? And so, yeah, that's how it happened.
Okay. And just to be clear, when you lost your grandfather, you were the ripe old age of...
Yeah, he passed 3 days before I turned 18.
So at 18, you became executor of his estate and had to make some hard decisions.
Yep, I was the administrator of his estate. The day I turned 18, they did that. And then, so I was still in my senior year of high school. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, I literally remember needing to wait till my client got out of school to discuss an offer.
Yeah.
And that was kind of weird. So, but what I found at that time was that you were very detail oriented. She asked a ton of questions, and again, this is at the ripe old age of 18. She put me on the spot a couple of times with some questions. So is that just how you've always been as far as details and asking a lot of questions?
Especially with that, because I was so scared of messing up. Like, it was just everything unknown, and I was so scared of not handling things correctly. And so I was not afraid to just be like, I don't know anything. I remember like I said, with the first time, nothing happened, and so when we went with Edna, we got an offer, and she said, do you want a counter? And I was like, what does counter mean? Like, I didn't even know what that meant, and that was one thing I loved about her, is she never made me feel stupid for not knowing things, and so that was huge for me, because I felt like an idiot little kid. I was.
Oh my gosh. No, very bright 18-year-old. So now that you've been in the business, and I know that we're talking investment, but I really want them to understand the average realtor does 12 deals a year. How many transactions have you completed in this 23 months? Do you have an idea? And we won't hold you to exact, but...
Yeah, I think I'm at 105 right now.
105 transactions in a little less than 2 years. So that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. So, these are all people that you knew and just were lined up with checks to sign?
Yeah.
So you actually had to go and learn the business, find the buyer, find the seller, and put the whole deal together.
Yes, very much. Yeah.
Okay. Now on investment, you had mentioned that you kind of came into the business with that thought process in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But what did that really look like to you as a new realtor? Were you thinking one deal in the next 5 years, or?
Yeah, definitely not expecting to move so quickly. With our first home, we bought and we lived in it, and I I just wanted to pay it off. I wanted to not owe anything. No one in my family had ever owned anything except my grandpa's property, and so that was just important to me to have something that was fully mine. And so we paid our first house off in 10 months, and then I was like, okay, Elisha, now we can go into all the debt you want to buy investment properties. Good debt, good debt. So that's kind of what that started. Yeah.
Okay. So as a first generation home owner, what were some of the big surprises to you in the process of purchasing your first home? Because this was before you were a realtor.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Honestly, how easy it was. That sounds silly, but like not really knowing many homeowners, I just thought that it must be kind of out of range, where you have to have a ton of money down, and now that I'm in the business, I know even more and just how creative you can be in going about purchasing a home.
Very good. So that process went smooth.
Mm-hmm.
I want to back up because you said it just so cavalier, but you paid off your 30-year mortgage in how long again?
10 months.
Okay, so she had a 30-year mortgage, and it was not for $5.
No, but
right. And so basically she went to a local bank, got a loan. The lender said, Addison, we will give you this loan for the next 30 years, and we expect you to make this monthly payment every month. And then at the end of the 30 years, you will own it free and clear.
Right.
Okay. So you didn't put 50,000 down or some huge astronomical amount.
No, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We did a pretty standard down payment, and we paid our own closing costs and everything, and then we just I think Dave Ramsey calls it the gazelle method. We just put everything towards that, and I wasn't making any money. I didn't have my first closing until December of that year, and we purchased in May. So I was barely making any money. So we look back and just laugh, and we're like, we don't know how we did that. But it was just our goal and it was our focus, and so that's what we did. We put all of our money towards it.
A lot of ramen noodles.
Yeah. No, my husband's a personal trainer. We still had to eat our fruits and veggies and make those work.
Healthy. Eat healthy. I love that. So the gazelle method through Dave Ramsey. And are there any tips that you would tell a seller who's wanting to pay off? Like, a lot of people think you just send the money, but there's a specific way you have to send the money.
Yeah, so a specific way, I don't really remember.
Okay, so when you do send extra money for your
house, yes, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so monthly wise, you have to put on there that you want all of the extra to go to principal, or they'll apply it to your interest, which is not beneficial.
Does not make sense.
Yeah, so you have to tell them, put this towards principal each time you're making a payment, and yeah.
Absolutely. And that's really the only secret is making sure that the lender applies the extra money, whether it's $5, $50, $500, or $5,000 toward your principal. And that is what reduces your debt. So that's how she was able to pay it off in 10 months. And was it always the exact same amount each month? Was it on the same day of the month?
Yeah, so all we did is divided our mortgage by the total. Our goal was actually a year, and so we divided it by that, but then we found another home that we wanted, so we just sped that up so we could do that. But yeah, so we just divided that by 12, and that's how much we knew we were going to pay every month. And of course it varies a little bit because you've got escrow and things like that, which we weren't even aware of. We were like, we've got money over there. Okay, great. They sent us back some. So, but yeah, that's how we went about it.
Okay, very good. So just make sure that you apply it to principal. And there are no hard rules on that. But I love the way they did it, is just dividing it by 12 and making that determination. However, what you can do is set an amount for the year that you want to prepay, so to speak. And you can do that at any time. It doesn't have to be when you make your monthly payment. It doesn't have to be on the same day of the month. It doesn't have to be every single month. You can do it once a year, you can do it 5 times a year, or you can do it every month the way the Allisons did it. So if you are getting a bonus, you can actually pay that toward your principal. If you have sold an old vehicle and want to apply that, you can have a garage sale and apply that. So don't get too hung up on the exact same time. I love that because that works for, I happen to know her husband really well and the way his brain works, he wants to be very scheduled. So not a bad thing. Okay, so that is her first purchase. So you lived there as your principal residence.
Yep.
You got a standard 30-year loan. And then what made you decide to turn that into a rental?
We just found a house that we liked better, and so we upgraded and moved into a new home, and then we didn't have really the funds to do like an Airbnb to be able to furnish it and all of that, and so we just decided to rent it out, and we've been very blessed with our tenant. It's been pretty smooth.
Okay. And since we're talking about investment, that's kind of a form of house hacking. You buy a small home. How long did you live there?
A year.
Okay, a full year. Now, if you were going to sell as an investor, we all know that you would want to stay in that home for a minimum of 2 years before you sell it so that it's your principal residence and then you don't pay capital gains. In this scenario, I love when a young person does not sell that home, but they house hack and rent it out. Now, our market historically has been where you can break even and even have some cash flow. What we've seen over the last 2 to 3 years, though, is it's not some cash flow, it's phenomenal cash flow. Do you know, without going into detailed numbers, are you making almost double what your house payment is on that property, or?
Yeah, we're pretty close to that.
Yeah.
What our house payment was. Yeah.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, since she purchased it as her primary, that's a little bit different than purchasing it as a investment property. So it's a very smart way to get that process started. So you put that home out there for a rental, closed on the new home, moved into it. How long was the downtime between you moving out and you getting a tenant in there?
We already had a tenant kind of nailed in before we moved out, and so I think that the home wasn't even vacant for a month before the transition happened. So
yay, that means that she did not make 2 house payments.
Yeah,
The tenant was able to cover that, so that's fantastic. And then now you've been a landlord for a rental for a year.
Yeah, a little over a year.
And it's been completely smooth, absolutely no repairs, no issues, no problems.
Not quite, but yeah.
Okay. And you wouldn't expect it to be. If you only want to get into investments and you're not willing to deal with issues or problems, then maybe being a landlord is not the best way to do it. So what are some of the issues that have come up during that time frame?
Let me see.
There was a storm.
Oh yeah, a whole tree fell on the house.
An entire tree. That was fun.
So, yeah, we had to get a new roof and siding and all of that good stuff. Just
An AC unit quit working.
Yes, this happened just yesterday, I think. So had to get a new thermostat, and yeah, there is always something, but there's always someone to fix it, and so everything's fixable.
Yeah, and the reason that's important is as an investor, we personally think everyone should get into investing in some form, but maybe being a landlord is not for you, and so there's other things that you can do. So we don't want to paint the picture that it's so easy and so profitable that everybody should do it. You do have to have the right mindset. I believe that there were, you had to have the home sprayed one time because of spiders, So there's always going to be some hiccups along the road, but everything is overcomeable. Overcomeable? Did I just make that word? Is that a word? Okay, good. Okay, we're going to go with that. So
it's just, that's already my job every day in real estate is problem solving with my clients. And so when it comes to a tenant and they have an issue, okay, we're just going to fix it. And so for me, that fits right along with my everyday personality, whatever. So maybe if that's not your personality,
don't do it.
Yeah,
yes, yeah.
Hiring a property manager or something like that, maybe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The other thing is this is the actual word is investment. So you have to maintain and keep it up. And one of the challenges that I find with young investors, and when I say young, I mean new to investing, because I was not a young investor, I was just new to investing when I got started. But we tend to want to make it the way we would want it if we were living there forever and ever. And that's not really the best way to handle the situation. You want it to be safe, sanitary, and secure, but you don't want to necessarily have marble countertops and high-end wood floors because that may not be the most profitable way.
Yeah, we wanted to redo the kitchen on that house because it had, you couldn't even tell, but it had two different countertops on the sides, but they looked so similar. And so I was talking to Edna about it. She was like, well, no, you've been living in it like that. It's fine. And I was like, I guess so. Like, we didn't care to fix it for ourselves. So.
Yeah, exactly. So it's finding that balance, and that is when you're flipping a home or you're putting a home on the market for a potential tenant. Don't go crazy, because if you can't cash flow, then you wouldn't have the money to take care of it when the tree fell or when the AC unit went out, those types of things. So finding that balance is super, super important.
Yeah.
So, okay, so now you have a rental unit.
Mm-hmm.
You are living in a much, she said new home, but it's not new. It was a rehabbed home
New to me, yeah,
that an investor did, and it's gorgeous and fabulous, but it was not new. She just jumped in and grabbed it. So now you own an investment property, you own a primary property.
Mm-hmm.
What came next?
Then we bought a property right outside of town that we just finished remodeling and started Airbnb. So
Okay, so now you have a long-term rental and a short-term rental, which is Airbnb. And the Airbnb, super easy. You bought it the next day, had a tenant in it, and didn't have any downtime.
no, there was a lot of downtime, a lot of repairs, a lot of money, a lot of. So
I believe the term was, we've got to stop the bleeding.
yeah, we ran into just about everything you could in that house. But yeah, it's a great location. That's what we bought it for.
Yes, and at the end of the day, an investment there is a risk, and so we want to be really, really clear on that. I brought Addison on because as a young investor, and then just as a much younger person, what she's been willing to take on and tackle is just phenomenal. I love that she's basically fearless. But we do want to stress the fact that an investment property, there are risks involved. The first one went so smooth, no downtime, no money loss, cash flow from day one.
Yeah.
The second one, there were some hiccups.
Yeah, there were very expensive, unexpected things that needed to be done.
Yeah, so just be cautious with that, but don't be so fearful that you can't move forward. So,
and that's for me, you can buy this house anywhere else, but you can't buy this location anywhere else. And so for me, it was still always worth it. And so that's just something to take into consideration when you're looking at those things.
I love that. I love that. So there's two major rules when it comes to real estate. One is the golden rule, which you're not supposed to wait to buy real estate. You're supposed to buy real estate and then wait. And so the adage here is that she bought a small older home on some large acreage in a wonderful location. And so the golden rule is buy and wait. And then the number one rule is location, location, location. And so she jumped on and kind of did a combination of both of those. So I love that. And so as an Airbnb host, first off, how long have you officially been an Airbnb host?
Maybe 2-3 weeks.
Okay.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
We've had 2 guests.
Two guests. Yay. She's on her way to super host status.
Yes, hopefully.
And so what are some of the advantages of it being an Airbnb as opposed to the long-term rental?
The opportunity for cash flow is higher on a short-term rental for sure. And you kind of have more control of when people are going to be there, of course, things like that, which we always want someone there, so that's not really a thing for us. But yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if I figured it all out yet.
I'll tell you, her favorite part was the decorating, right?
Yes, I love that.
She absolutely loved that. So, and how did you do with the budget on that? Did you start off with a set budget on for furnishing it and decor, or did you just kind of go with the flow?
We just kind of went with the flow.
Ah,
Yeah.
I have to
We
redact that
we
part.
we have our funds. We had okay. We know we have this much to spend there.
Okay,
So
there was a budget.
Yeah, there was a budget that we didn't even come close to, thank goodness, but not probably as tight a budget as we should have. Not line by line, no
Okay.
Excel sheet. I don't think Elisha got an Excel sheet
Wow,
on that one.
that's shocking. But it's probably because there were a lot of big ticket items that happened before you even got to the decor. And by the time you
Yeah.
got ready to do the decor, you were like, just stop the bleeding, get it furnished, and get it
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
market.
On towels and sheets and all of that stuff, I think we did a really good job of just finding nice quality stuff. TJ Maxx, places like that, all your decor. I mean,
Okay. And so how do you even know what to purchase? Do you just go through your home and make a list of what they may need, or?
well, you gave me a pretty good list to start out with.
Okay. Yeah,
so-
I totally stole it. Bigger Pockets is a podcast that got me started. I have 5 currently and 2 that we're working on right now to bring on. I absolutely love the Airbnb, the entire platform. Bigger Pockets, I took a shopping list off of that. I've added to it and tweaked it as I've helped other Airbnb hosts. So if that's something that anybody has an interest in, we'd be happy to share.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so you enjoyed that process?
Yes, I love the decorating.
Okay, very good. And how are you finding the platform right now as far as the Airbnb app itself? Do you think it's difficult, easy to use?
I think so far it's been really easy to use. Even going in and making edits, because like with photos, I've had to do a lot of, because we would finish this room and, then have to add.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's been pretty easy for me.
And you like to me, the photo process was the one thing that drove me crazy.
Really?
Yeah, but it's been a minute since I've done it, so maybe I need to go back in.
Different.
I think that's one of the things that I do love about Airbnb platform is I've been very fortunate to, I don't know, I feel like assist or help is too strong of a word, but to assist, encourage 22 different properties besides my own at becoming Airbnbs in our market. And what I'm getting out of that, one, I love to see the other person enjoy the process, but every single time I've assisted them or encouraged them, they have gone into the platform and found something that I was not aware of that I was able to then upgrade or do better. So I'm going to check on those photos. Maybe that process has gotten better. So, okay, so now we have a long-term rental, an upgraded full-term residential home, a short-term a short-term rental.
Yep.
What else?
And then we just bought a property. I've been saying a home is a stretch. They advertised it as a bathhouse. She advertised it as a
Bathhouse.
It's like maybe a tiny home. We're gonna tiny home at the lake. But again, location
I'm thinking
was
it's
looking at
about
that.
250 square feet.
230.
200. I was so close. Yeah, 230 square foot. That is a teeny tiny. I don't know that that's a term. So
I've got it mapped out though. I can squeeze everything in there.
Okay. And what on earth would possess you to buy a 230 square foot home?
Well, it's at the lake. You can walk to the water. You've got a lake view. It also did have a huge shop on it where people can bring their boats and all that good stuff. So location, again, won that one for sure.
Okay. And so what are you going to do with it? Long-term rental? Move into it?
Short-term Airbnb.
Okay. So there you go.
Yeah.
And do you have the name of that one picked out yet?
Yes, our other one is a rock house, and so it's the giraffe house because the exterior, that's what they're called, because they look like giraffe skin. And then this one we're going to call the fishbowl because it's little and by the lake.
I love that. It's about the size of a fishbowl.
It is.
It's teeny tiny. And so, would you say on being in the business and buying these, are you getting like incredibly crazy great deals and paying far less than market value and what they're listed at?
So I'm a realtor. So no, nobody, as seller, is just not going to negotiate with me. Um, so I accept that. I know that going into, when I make an offer. So
And guys, let me explain what the reason I brought that up is a lot of investors choose to work with someone who doesn't own investment properties, and I think that's a little short-sighted. Choosing myself or Addison as your realtor is not a bad decision, and here's why. Neither of us have been able to purchase properties at a reduced rate because we are licensed realtors and the seller immediately feels like they're being taken advantage of. So every investment property that I've purchased, I've paid list price or more, and I happen to know the exact same thing with Addison. And unfortunately, it rolls over to my children too.
yeah.
Yeah, so, but she still purchases these properties, and it's a long-term investment, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, sorry, I interrupted her, but I wanted to point that out. And I find it odd when people will not use a local realtor who is an investor because they think that we're going to compete with them, and they hire someone who is not an investor. Now that you are an investor, you can see how many pitfalls and what issues could come up. So do you think that you're more qualified to help the next investor?
Yeah. And with 2 properties that I purchased, I sent to several of my clients and no one wanted it. So I was like, fine then. So I really do always try to sell it first.
Absolutely.
My husband, that's not his favorite thing, but I was like, that's my job. So I always try to sell it first, and then if it's a good opportunity and I don't have a buyer, then I'll take it.
Absolutely. Same here. Same here. So, and I think both of the investment properties that you purchased, well, not both investment properties, but for sure one of the investment properties, I had tried to get several of you guys to buy it, but that's okay. It worked for Addison, and she was happy to pay. Well, I don't know if she was happy, but
We did it.
pay full price. So, okay. And so do you have a time frame for having the fishbowl on the market?
Not yet. We just bought it like last week, right? So
Okay.
we already have the driveway done. So we already did one thing off the list. But I would say probably about 2 months and we'll have that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Addison is on the sales team, which collaborates with Edna Sales. And fortunately, I get to be her mentor in all things real estate. And again, this is a podcast regarding all things real estate. So thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to hearing your questions regarding investments. Thank you, Addison.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.